Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'd like to talk about Doctor Who once again, responding to a comment I got from frequent commenter David Blythe on one of my recent Doctor Who videos, the one talking about that ultimate question, could the Day of the Doctor have been even better than what it was? And I postulated some added aspects that I thought they could have thrown in there for the time slot that was available. There would have been little nods and homages to the past that would have appeased a broader range of Whovian audience. And it was David's contention in his post on that video that this is kind of like a shopping list, a Whovian sort of wish list of things that really wouldn't have been enough time to develop and, would have been lost on the casual viewers, which is what they're sort of marketing the show more for these days. And I agree with that to a point, but I also have to apply the logic of my own relationship with Doctor Who, and that is to say I have vague memories of being a child and seeing Tom Baker, watching it with my mother, but it wasn't until the 2005 series came along, Christopher Eccleston, Billy Piper, that it was something I consciously got into. He was essentially my first official Doctor. As soon as that series wrapped and my sister and I had loved every episode, we went out to our local Best Buy, stores we have in the U.S., and bought the beginning box set, featuring an unearthly child, the Daleks, Edge of Destruction, sort of photo snap collage version of Marco Polo and stuff like that, and just seeing the origins from 1963 of this beloved series. And that was our first venture into classic Doctor Who. Going on, several years later, I have a whole drawer full of classic Doctor Who DVDs I've eaten up whenever I can afford them. And I think there's a certain level of, you could have done these things. You could have had William Russell as the headmaster of the school coming and showing concern for Clara, thinking, is she ill, that kind of thing. And you really don't have to spend that much time developing that. It would have just been a cameo for the casual viewer. Oh, he's the headmaster of the school. They could have said that in a line straight away. But for the people who would know who he was, boom, yes, we got Ian back, I don't think there would have had to have been too much time spent describing and explaining all this stuff. Maybe a little more so with my contention that they could have had like Carol Ann Ford or Colin Baker, as I said in that video, for sort of facets of the moment. Maybe they would have had to explain that a little more, who they were and, who the faces were that were appearing to the Doctor, stuff like that. But I don't think it would have been so obtrusive. I think they could have just gotten away with it in a couple lines here or there. And if people aren't sort of subscribing to what they call the Whoobie culture, these newbie Whovians who are really only concerned with whether, the companion or David Tennant or Matt Smith are, air quotes, hot, and that's the only reason they're watching. If, they're getting into Doctor Who, I would assume that there are going to be people out there like me, and I think they're going to be in the majority of Whovian fandom, considering how they're keeping the show alive, that are going to be wanting to check out the history of the show. When David Tennant was around, I got the Ultimate Monster Guide. I talked about this in a previous video where essentially I was saying, in answer to Stephen Moffat's claims at the time, a couple of years back, that there wouldn't be classic monsters, there wouldn't be any Ronnie, things like that, the monk and all this stuff, because people wouldn't get, air quotes, what it was. It's my contention that we're dumbing down, we're presuming the Whovian audience are stupid, when that is severely not the case. I've been looking up action figure reviews for Doctor Who collectibles and stuff like that, where people know the minutia even better than I do. Oh, Sylvester McCoy action figure has a brown coat. He has a gold chain, but he didn't actually have the gold chain in the story that this is depicted from and everything like that. I'm like, whoa, it just went over my head. I think there's something to be said for these things being able to have been done and not having to risk alienating, broadening the audience of Doctor Who, because if they're going to get into Doctor Who, they're going to have to accept that it's been around for a long time, and there's something more to it. You don't have to study books to understand it. You can watch a 5-minute video telling you these are the Doctors. This was the history of the show in a nutshell, and if you want to pursue it more, go ahead. If not, we the Whovians love what we're getting. So, I'd love to hear from anyone else who wants to chime in on this subject. Do you think Doctor Who needs to be watered down? Do you think, the Whovians, the sort of like the Trekkies who are going to know all the ins and outs of the history of the show are to its detriment? Or do you think it's us who are keeping it alive and that we should have had some throwback in the Day of the Doctor to that effect. So, yeah, otherwise, thank you, David, for your comments, as always, and everyone else who takes the time, and that'll be it for me. I'll catch you later. Peace.